Hi everybody, welcome to History Made Awesome. My name is Eric, and before I get into today's video, I'd like to discuss why I haven't uploaded in such a long time, and especially why this director's commentary on the complicated history of race has also taken a long time as well to make. The part of the reason, I think the main reason is because when I get this video took a toll on me. It was really hard to make this video, and I'll discuss the ways or how long it took me to make it and the effort I put into it. So I was just really just tired, just burnt out from trying to make the complicated history of race video. And at the same time too, when graduate school starts for me doing my master's degree, um, it takes a lot of energy and especially creative energy to get through that type of get through a school semester essentially. And so, this is the two reasons why I've kind of waited kind of a really long time to produce content again. And but don't worry, don't fear. I'm also producing a lot more content after this video, and I'll talk more about that at the end. But without further ado, let's get into this director's commentary. So for this director's commentary, I like to keep it kind of casual. I do have some notes in front of me, so I will be referring to those notes at certain points of the video. But first, without further ado, let's get into it. You know, First off, why did I make this video? So this is this for this reason. So the reason why I made the complicated history of race video is really down to I think two things. At least that's why I boiled it down to two things at least. First off, you know, I was kind of responding to the events that happened at the end of May and beginning of June, which was really the reintroduction of the Black Lives Matter movement. This is a movement that's really been around since 2013, and so the reintroduction was really tied to the George Floyd protests, and especially this reintroduction was really down to the George Floyd killing and the protests that occurred after, and this event and the events that followed uh, really kind of reintroduced the social problems that's been going on in the United States and I think around the world as well, especially the West at least. Um, you know, the the racism and that doesn't only exist within the police, but I think also within society. And it's not really, there's racism that's not really, straight up racism in a sense, but really things that kind of exist below the surface. But I think these events really brought those things back up to mainstream politics, mainstream media, and really brought these ideas to the surface as well. Not these ideas, but these social ills, these problems. So with that being the case, I kind of, and also at the same time too, um, well, that's really the main thing as well. And so in that sense, this was my contribution to uh, trying to bring awareness to these problems and kind of how deep this goes, how these social ills go, especially the social ills of racism and race. Um, and instead of trying to do a one Instagram post, Blackout Tuesday or the Black Lives Matter posts, which not this is not to say that those contributions are any less bad or worse. I just really wanted to, in my own way, contribute to bring about awareness to these problems. And so I wanted to, at the same time, do this contribution was helped by the fact that I had in that same semester, or at least the end of that semester when these events occurred, um, I had just taken a graduate research seminar, which was on race. So in this seminar, we talked about the ideas of race and how is race defined, how it's historically been defined, at the same time too how these ideas of race have impacted our history and continue to still impact our history or still impact us today at least. And so that is I wanted to then take what I learned and what I kind of grew from that seminar, um, and then kind of put it into a video. So, and that's kind of where I got my idea for this video. And so, as I'll talk about a little bit, a lot of the literature that I got from the video came from the course. And I think at the same time too, this when it comes to research seminar or all seminars in general, I would say graduate seminars in history, you're kind of asked to produce a kind of your own type of research project, at least a little mini one. Especially with a graduate research seminar, you really have to come up with a, I guess like a research proposal. Like when it comes to research proposals, these are kind of historiographical papers, which kind of bring about how you want to take how you want to take up a research on race or any type of historical topic, and then you have to provide a lot of like what have people written about this topic, and so a lot of the kind of literature that I got from for the video came from doing research on this idea, or at least my how I want to look at race within my own type of field of history. So that's where I kind of got a lot of my literature from, and uh, so yeah, I thought it was a perfect way and a good way to kind of provide my own contribution to bring awareness to this social ill and problem of race and racism. And so at the same time too, I really want to uh, diversify the content that I make in terms of like the history that I excuse me history that I decide to cover. In that, what I see a lot on YouTube is the videos. At least I think a part of that is also the what's recommended to me by YouTube. A lot of the videos are kind of military history videos, or these political geography questions, or very high up political questions, or events that have occurred. So I really want to kind of provide a much, this idea, race is a very big topic, as a very big idea. So I wanted to, maybe show things to maybe other YouTubers. What I did in this video is really kind of complex, and maybe my training can help shed light and to kind of maybe not answer the questions really, but to kind of provide certain outlets and certain viewpoints that can lead to other answers, or um, I guess more views on these big ideas. So outlets to like smaller ideas, but still very important ideas as well. So that is kind of the two reasons why I made the video, is to kind of shed light on this problem and to kind of diversify the history that I make. So with that out of the way, let's talk about how I made the video. To talk about the logistics of making the video, so this process of making the video in terms of editing, researching, of course, making it like recording at the same time too. So this process took about 3 months, from about June to about August. Uh, so this includes, yes, like I talked about everything I did. Um, at the same time too, this process was helped greatly by my three good friends. I just want to give them a shout out right now. Ben, Madi, and Daniel, who are a big help to me in terms of editing my work, or editing the script at least. They were helpful in kind of looking at the lot the how the video is constructed. Some of the arguments that I make in the video, and they hold degrees in genetics, English, and history. So one person who can really help with the script making, one person who is really good at looking at the historical thinking of it and how it's structured in that way, and someone who's not from the field, but someone who is a scholar in their own right, I would say, who can look at it and kind of look at it from an outside view, and how someone else who's not someone who doesn't hold an interest, not interest, but a degree in the field, who can kind of look at it, which is really important. So thank you to all those people. They were really helpful in making the video good, at least up to my standards, a high standard, and also getting the process done. So thank you to them. Uh, so let's so catch is attached to the how I made the video. Uh, let's talk about how I went about constructing the video. The perception I decided to take upon it. My kind of not feedback, but really kind of expand upon it. And I think these are some people that might have like questions on it, or questions that might come up. The choices I made, well, why the choice, well, the choices I made. So let's get into that. So first, I think let's talk about like the main kind of point of view and kind of why I chose this perception that I had. So let's kind of lay it out right now. So what I wanted to do, with this video is kind of demonstrate how, the modern perception, how the modern perception of race came to be, and how this idea was, constructed, and it's something that is still kind of with us today. This modern perception of race, as I say early in the video, is heavily focused on facial features, meaning skin color, like where your nose is, I guess the way your face is kind of constructed. These are things that that's kind of taken up how race is kind of organized in a sense today, especially. And so by taking this approach, I wanted to show that race and this perception of race was not or is not an idea that is an inherent aspect of the human condition. And so while this is the case, I also want to show that what we call, or what we or I call modern racial thought, has existed for a much longer period than was once believed, um, which is partially argued in the New York Times 1619 project. And in this project, it pretty much argues that um, ideas of American race and racism has pretty much existed since the beginning of like the founding of America. Not to say the United States, but the first kind of European colonists to, or at least successful European colonization of North America. And I think that this, what I talked about in this video, kind of, I think, expands upon that idea, but it's very still much connected to the idea. And I can also make another video talking about that as that project as well. Um, so in order to accomplish these two tasks to kind of highlight the way racial thought of today was created and how it's existed for a much longer period of time, I wanted to show how race. I want to show race existing in a multitude of different contexts. So looking at how Catholic Iberians, um, you know, uh, were committing, not only maybe a little bit of genocide, but lots of uh, putting together certain types of racial codes in a sense, or these not very modern but still codes in their own way, um, with the Jews and also the Muslims. And so this is really especially in the late medieval Iberia. At the same time, too, with perception of nobility in early modern Europe, and also, and so these are kind of the also two contexts I look at as well. So, while this is the case that these rates existed in these two contexts, early contexts of American history or Europe, world history, or especially European history as well. Uh, when we look at, when we try to find race in the ancient world, especially like ancient Greece or ancient Rome, it's really hard to find these ideas of race within that time period, within those contexts. And so I kind of chose to not. So my choice to look at race in those two contexts is really twofold. One of them is to kind of shows that race is not an idea that has existed in the entirety of humanity. In other words, there is a world, I guess, without race, and it is possible. At the same time, too, I began. It's also in terms of like how I want to kind of like organize the work. I want to start kind of from the beginning of time. Well, not from the beginning of time, but I wanted to provide before we get to that point. I wanted to provide a definition of race in order to kind of, I guess, I think to judge upon the other contexts of race. In other words, that if we look at a time period, we can look at the definition and see if what we're looking at really is defined as race, or is race occurring in that time period or in that event. And so that's why I want to do is first provide a definition of race, to provide that backdrop, and then begin with ancient Greece, and then go through the time period and kind of chronological time from the beginning to, or at least not the beginning of time, but really the beginning of kind of organized historical thought in a sense, and then going forward to about the 18th century. And the reason why I stopped at the 18th century is because it's really during the 18th century that we really begin to see modern racial science and modern racial thought really begin to appear, um, which is really takes off in the 19th century. But whatever happened in the 19th century is really kind of has its roots back into the 18th century, at least the scientific aspect of it. That it scientific meaning that it literally is a part of our world. At least that's what they believed. That's what the people in the 19th century really believed. So that is kind of why I chose to look at the ancient world, which is two parts. begin with it as a kind of really good starting point for my look at race. At the same time, too, to kind of show that there is a world without race, or at least modern racial thought, or at least yeah, that's kind of what I did with that kind of not theological, but chronological setting that I decided to put upon my work. Um, and lastly, too, attached to how I organized the video. When I was making the video, I had a couple choices. I could have done, 4 parts, or four several pieces of looking at the race in these different contexts. But the reason why I decided not to go that route was because I felt that if I broke it up into 4 parts, it will be easy to lose the larger view that I'm trying to have on this look at race. In other words, I believe that the only way one can see how the idea of race has transformed over the years is by taking a more macro lens of history, looking at from a much larger picture and kind of following it through in one coherent narrative. Is the reason why I decided to make one large video instead of several videos, because I feel like you can really lose what I was really trying to show in this video, and that's the reason why I made that choice. This last point here is in terms of the choices I made in the video is something I kind of struggled with throughout the process making. You know, in my video, throughout the video, and at the same time in the title as well, I use race and not racism as kind of the focal point of my video. So I kind of like to talk about this and kind of highlight this this problem that I had, but I think it's an important conversation to have as well. So before I get into this point, I'd like to turn to Karen E. Fields in her book Racecraft, and this is a book that is really helps me define race and is an idea that kind of carries itself out throughout the video, and is also the first piece of literature that I look at to kind of start off the video as well. And so in this work, she recognizes that race and racism are two different things. And just to kind of follow up on her words on this kind of this difference in a sense, not really difference, but connecting but different at the same time too. She says that racism refers to the theory and the practice of applying a social, civic, and legal double standard based on ancestry and to the ideology surrounding such a double standard. Racism is first and foremost a social practice, which means that it is an action and a rationale for action, or both at once. Racism always takes for granted the granted objective reality of race as just defined, so it is important to register their distinctiveness. In this way, racism is the principal unit in the core concept of racism. So, in my view, and kind of judging from her words, I believe that it is really hard to have racism without race as kind of like the thing that anchors the racism, I guess. Um, but by taking this view, I don't want to say that race is somehow more evil than or eviler than racism, or vice versa. In other words, what I'm trying to say is that racism is essentially deciding to create social inequality based on a perception of race. And that kind of connects to, I think, what Karen E. Fields is really talking about, as in, race is the principal unit and the core concept of racism. Race kind of grounds, or at least is kind of thing that's a part of racism. It's kind of like the thing that holds racism together, I guess I'm trying to say. And so that's kind of why. So in one sense, they feed off each other, and they give each other, power to be around in our world. And so that's why I decided to use race and not racism as my title and kind of the focal point of my video. But at the same time too, I try to show this connection working throughout the literature that I talk about and through how I organize the video. So that's kind of what I have to say about this video. I hope that it was important. I hope that it sparked a lot of questions. Sparked a lot of desire and willingness to learn more. Also, I hope it shed light on kind of this important idea that's still impacting our human condition, the way we look at humanity, the way we look at our own world. And I hope I was able to kind of spark those types of feelings in this video. And if If you want to make more videos, if you want me to choose a topic or one side of, maybe go into more detail on one of the historical events and contexts that I chose in the video, definitely hit me up, and I'll definitely do my best to put the work in and to make a good quality video. And speaking of good quality videos, I want to try and talk about the future of the channel and what I want to do. So, just a couple of things. First off, is I will be having a lot more time to kind of make videos and to kind of pursue things outside of uh, my program, my master's program. I am doing my research, so that might I'm doing my research for my master's thesis, so that might hinder me at some points, but I won't be taking any courses, which is really, oh, not, well, might be taking a course, but it won't be as uh, difficult. I'm not say difficult. It won't be as overwhelming as it was in my last or the couple past semesters I've had in grad school, which will give me more time to kind of produce some, original content, some really good stuff for the channel. Hopefully, spread the knowledge and love for history at the same time too. So a couple of things first. I will be producing. There's another video I have coming out, and I think it's kind of the same subject on race and racism, but it's more of a reaction video. This video is already made, but I had to go back and kind of edit it and put it together. So hopefully that comes together very well. And at the same time, too, I have very exciting news. I'll be kind of restarting the podcast, but in a very unique and cool way. So I don't have a title for it. Probably have a title very soon, but whatever it is. So me and Daniel, as you will see in the next video, hopefully, and also you've seen in past videos as well, we'll be doing a podcast with people people who work in history, in terms of people are professional historians or people who are granted degrees in history, and so in this video, we'll talk about what they're doing with their research, and what makes their thing cool and unique. At the same time, too, we'll be talking about the field of history in general, certain parts of it, or maybe history as a general idea. And I think this will be a really cool experience, really cool process, and I think it'll be really, really, really good to see how historians talk to each other. And I think try making entertaining as we can, and interesting. And yeah, I'm really excited to begin the process of making those videos. But yeah, you will definitely see me a lot more active on the channel. I will do my best to produce content as much as I can. Schedule, it's kind of hit and miss now, but there will be more content on the channel. So hopefully that answered all your questions. Hopefully it provides you a glimpse into the future. And yes, hope to see you guys on the next one. Peace.